What are brain waves and why do we care about them? Dr. Hans Berger, he did a bunch of experiments, put a bunch of probes on people's heads, and determined that our brain works on different frequencies. We see over here on this side that we have a bunch of numbers, and those are cycles per second, or the brain frequencies. So we have 0 to 4, 4 to 7, 7 to 14, 14 to 21. The universe works in octaves. So it works in multiples of 7. First octave, which at 7, you start over 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And when you go to the repeating the next part of an octave, just like in a music scale, you go to the next level. The alpha frequency is being 7 to 14 cycles per second. Beta is being 14 to 21. Theta is being 4 to 7. And delta is being above 0 to 4. There's actually another frequency they found in here, 0.5 cycles per second in delta. And we don't really understand what goes on in here. Beta is the frequency that we're most likely at right now. It's consciously walking around and talking to people and doing different things. When we go to a meditative state or when we go to rapid eye movement sleep, we go down into this alpha level. That's right about 10 cycles per second, right in the middle of alpha. And anywhere in this area is considered that you're in alpha. When you're in deep sleep, you're going down to the delta level. And then in the theta level, you're at a level where it's basically painless dentistry and painless surgery. When you're under the effects of anesthesia, you're at this level. Consciously control those frequencies and how you can start to tap into different aspects of your abilities and how you can use them to your advantage. When we know how to get to the alpha frequency, we can increase our intelligence, improve our memory, use it for creativity, alertness, of reducing stress, anxiety. With regular practice, we can reduce symptoms of anxiety and depression. We look at the alpha frequency. It's the most stable frequency out of all of brain waves. When you learn how to meditate, your brain waves become more ordered. So if I were to look at your brain waves before and after, took a meditation class with me, we could see that after the fact, your brain waves are more ordered. Now you get a lot of benefits from that because you get all those benefits that I just mentioned. Plus, anyone around you starts to synchronize to your level and their brain waves will actually become more ordered. So we can affect everything around the planet by simply working on ourselves, our personal development, learning how to meditate, and becoming more ordered in our brain frequency. When we look at the chart over here in beta, most likely right now, and when we go down into this alpha, and we say down just as a general direction, you become more relaxed, you get more into it, and you can tap into different resources. When we look at this on the beta world, we call that the outer conscious level. The alpha and below, we call that the inner conscious, meaning that the outer conscious is the world around us, the inner conscious is our mind. In the outer conscious level, we have objective things that are going on. We have sight, sound, taste, touch, smell, time, and space. We can touch things. If I ask you to go out and walk around the block right now in your neighborhood, it might take you 20 minutes or half an hour to walk around your block. If I ask you to go to a meditative state and imagine yourself walking around a block, you can walk around a block in a couple of, in a matter of seconds. We say that there's no time and space. The alpha level, we call this a subjective level, and there's no time, space, and there's non-locality. So we can project ourselves anywhere in the universe that we want to go to. Our brain doesn't really care about how it gets input. So it can get inputs from the objective level, from the world around us, or from our imagination and by doing remote viewing and using our imagination to be able to do things. When the brain detects those things coming in, it's going to interpret them the same way as we do when we're awake. And it's going to look at things and it's going to be able to get that information for us. When we learn how to function at this alpha level, we can then start to do things at a subjective level. We can do remote viewing, and we use that in the class for healing purposes and for psychic detection of detecting issues. So you could look, for instance, if you had a problem with your car, you could visualize your car, work on it, and figure out where the problem is. You can do the same thing with remote detection on people. You can visualize the person on your mental screens and in your mind, and figure out what the issues are with them. And when we do this in the class, everyone's always a little nervous when they start to do this, and then everyone gets validation of the information that they're seeing. So they can say, "Oh, the person's walking with a limp," and you notice that the person has a problem with their leg, for example, or they have some other issue. Everyone believes someone else can do this, but they can't. Everyone has this ability, And what we want to do is teach you how to use this ability. In the alpha level, we can also use that for enhanced learning, so we can learn things a lot faster. We can do a better memory recall. We can tap into other subjective senses to get answers to things. So, for instance, if you want to learn an instrument, if you know how to alter your brain frequency, go to an alpha state and start learning that instrument, you'll be able to learn it much faster. If you want to learn a sport and you start doing it at the meditative state, you can start learning it faster. When someone enters into flow, they get their brain waves go to the gamma frequency, which is anywhere between 35 and 50 cycles per second, for about 20 milliseconds or 30 milliseconds, and then it drops way down into alpha almost immediately. We're not sure why this happens, but it's an event that we've been able to identify. When you enter flow, you're essentially going to the alpha state, and your mind is blocking out all sorts of other distractions from you. I teach you about 10 different ways to get into alpha. You can get into alpha very quickly and then go to a quick meditative state, go into alpha, and basically stay there while you're working on whatever your project is, or while you're listening to a presentation or whatever it happens to be. Being in alpha is a key component of learning to go into flow. One of the ways they teach people to go into flow is by taking a meditation class. And they found that yogis who have been practicing meditation for 30 or 40 years can do this all naturally. Well, we can teach you in about 4 days to do this, and then to be able to go into an altered state in your mind very quickly, and then open your eyes and then start to study. And then we give you other techniques on how to recall that information. What happens is when you start getting used to doing this, just doing the work sometimes is a trigger mechanism. You get into this flow state almost automatically. And you start working, and all of a sudden you can feel it. If you pay attention to it, you can feel that all the other senses are starting to block out. The thing that I always have to watch out for is I'll start to work on a project, and then I have a conference call scheduled in 15 to 20 minutes. I'm trying to get a little work done before the conference call. And then I miss the call because I enter this flow state, and I just lose track of all the time. So in my case, for something like that, I need to set like an alarm or something so that I know that when it's time to get out of my flow state and go into the conference call. Once you've started getting into flow and you realize what you're doing, you can get into there very quick, basically dependent upon getting into the alpha state. And once you learn how to do that, then you can open up a world of possibilities to you. Classes I teach, we do is typically over a 4-day period. Either it's 4 days in a row, 2 weekends in a row, or 4 nights, 2 weeks in a row. Things that we teach in a class, we have over 28 techniques and exercises that we do. Some techniques will get you into an alpha state. Other techniques are to use the alpha state once you're there, and different creative ways to use your mind for problem solving, for goal attainment, for doing remote viewing, and doing spiritual healing or psychic healing. And you walk away with about 10 different ways to get into the alpha state. Some of them are more formal, where you sit in a chair or in a meditative state, and you close your eyes and you go through a formal meditation. Other ways are just using trigger mechanisms that we define. We have a 3-finger technique. We have other techniques that we use where you can just go to the alpha state very quickly, work on something for a couple of seconds, and then come back out. For example, if you're in a shopping mall, you need to meet up with somebody. And I've done this. Put my 3 fingers together for a second, go to a quick meditative state, and you can do this even when you're walking. I visualize that I'm going to meet up with whoever I'm looking for, because let's say I know that they're in the shopping mall, and I want to meet up with them. In the cases when I did this, within like 4 or 5 minutes, I ended up randomly walking into them by walking around the shopping mall and taking a turn this way versus that way, and all of a sudden I meet up with them. I originally took this class in 1980, and I use it literally every day since 1980. You notice that when you start using these things, you start to become dependent upon them, because everything just flows so much smoother. When we go to sleep at night, our brain does a number of amazing things, and it alters our brain frequencies to a bunch of different frequencies for different various things to happen at night while the body's repairing itself and while we're getting a good night's sleep. So the first thing that happens typically when you go to sleep at night is your brain drops down, or goes to a specific frequency, goes down to this level. This is a delta level. Remember, delta is 0 to basically 4 cycles per second. We'll go to this delta level for a little bit at a time, and then we'll come up through theta, and we'll go into REM sleep, and then we'll go back down. We may not go down to deep delta again, but we go down into a theta level. We come back up into REM. Every time we do this, each cycle is about 90 minutes long. And as we go through these cycles, the first time we go into delta, we're in there for a long time. We're maybe in the dream state or the rapid eye movement sleep state for only a few minutes, and then we'll go back down. We'll go to another cycle, and we might not go as deep, but when we come up, we'll be a little bit longer in the REM sleep. Each time we go into REM sleep, we'll stay there a little bit longer until in the morning. Most of the sleep cycle is in REM. That's why we typically remember more dreams in the morning than in the middle of the night. Go through these sleep cycles. We go through all these different, our brain changes our frequency to go to all these different levels. In my class, we teach you to start to program yourself to remember your dreams. I do a whole class on dreaming where we talk about what do the symbols mean, how to induce dreaming, how to induce what's called a lucid dreaming state, where lucid dreaming is where I'm aware I'm dreaming when I'm having the dream. And there's a bunch of techniques on how to do that. When you start to pull information from this dream state, you can then start to improve your life in certain areas. The dreams are, talking metaphysically now, dreams are kind of a loophole in our existence here, because they allow us to connect with our higher selves in the spiritual realm. And in there, in our dreams, we're getting messages on a daily basis. The most important thing for us to know that day are messages that are coming through in the dreams. And some of the dream messages could be, you have a deep-seated, depression about something, and then you need to work on that. And when you work on that, then all of a sudden the dreams that you have in that same area of what's called your dream landscape will open up, and you'll start to get more things that you can do and explore in your dream. The way our brain works, it doesn't care if it gets information from the subjective level or the objective level. It's still able to get information. The class that I teach, we teach you how to use your subjective level to work creatively or to get information that you wouldn't necessarily be able to get. And a lot of the information is considered intuitive senses. By developing our alpha level and being able to tune into our subjective levels of awareness, we can have a better connection with our intuition. The intuition is essentially, the way I like to explain it, is if you were taking a trip from one part of the country to another part of the country, and you didn't read any street signs, how would you know if you ever got there? Intuition is kind of like reading the street signs as you navigate life. As you get feelings and you get intuition about certain things that are happening, you're able to use that information and be able to use it either in your creative endeavors or in just your everyday life. By tapping into our subjective levels is really what we want to be able to do, so that we can get feelings, we can get interpretations from things. And we use the subjective levels for remote viewing and for creativity and imagination. We're able to tap into these resources and be able to use these things. So this is another reason why you want to be able to control your brain frequency, go into an alpha state. And then you have it's like opening up a world of possibilities to you. You have all these other resources that you can pull from. You can start getting information to be able to live a more successful life. When we go to an alpha level, we do remote viewing. We're using what's called our subjective senses. We're able to go and we're able to project our mind to wherever we want to go. That's where we look over here. We say no space and no time, non-locality. We can project our imagination to wherever we want to go. If I want to see what's going on in another part of the town, I can go to a meditative state. I can project my mind over to that area and I can view what's going on. Some of that takes a lot more practice and experience. And what we do in the class is we use psychic detection and healing, what we call it casework, where we're able to, if we were doing this in a class, after you take my class, we would sit you down and we'd say, okay, go to level, tell me when you're ready. And you'd say, okay, I'm ready. And I'd say, okay, at the count of 3, and I'd mention a person's name, their age, and all their particulars. And I'd say, tell me the first thing that comes to mind, even if you think you're making it up. At first, everyone's a little nervous because they think they can't do this, but everyone ends up doing this. And the more you practice, the better you get at it. They were able to tell us things about the person that I've presented to them as far as diseases or other illnesses that they may have. And then they're able to mentally correct those problems, however their imagination decides that they can correct those problems. And I've had some students in my class that are just phenomenal at this. They're able to do fantastic things you would read about in the Bible, for example. In the secret projects in the government, the way they do remote viewing is they don't want you to do any interpretation. What they want you to do is just report what you see and kind of remove yourself from the situation and just write down exactly what you see. So they will just give you like a set of coordinates, or they'll say, tune into this person and let me know what they're doing. And then you tune into that person, and maybe you draw a picture of a radio tower or something, or just